The Man in Line with Andy Wint.
Faster by, good afternoon, welcome to Man in Line on Manx Radio. We're open line through till 1 o'clock, so the floor's yours, whatever you want to say, then you're on the air. So, any thoughts today? Oh, by the way, thanks to Mike in Peel, just said a big thanks to the crew on last night's Manannan sailing after a very long day following an onboard medical emergency. Hopefully all is okay with the casualty, but I have to say communication regarding the knock-on delays was poor, particularly at the sea terminal. We were told to check in at Liverpool by 8:30 p.m. with an estimated timing departure of 9:15. Well, the incoming sailing didn't even dock until 23 minutes past 9. We eventually left Liverpool well after 11 o'clock with foot passengers having to board via the bow of the boat in the pouring rain due to tidal conditions. We were still getting off at 2:30 a.m, 4.5 hours late for what the steam packet said was a slight delay due to the emergency earlier in the day. So once again, thanks to all the crew. Crikey, it must have been a very long day for the crew, so well done to them. But I thought that the steam packet couldn't leave after 11 o'clock, but presumably as it was an emergency that all that's fine. But if you're on the boat last night, or certainly on the boat yesterday, it was somewhat bouncy, shall we say. So anyway, the Health Minister says the number of full-time equivalent posts in Manx Care has increased by 9% in the 3 years since Manx Care was established. The revelation came as part of a written answer from Laurie Hooper, the Ramsey MHK, of course, Health and Social Care Minister, David Ashford, Douglas North MHK, himself a former DHSC minister, had asked it. Mr. Ashford had asked what the job roles by title made up the increases in full-time equivalent staffing in his department and in Manx Care, and in each case whether the increase resulted from the filling of a vacancy or the creation of a new role. Mr. Hooper said when Manx Care was established in April 2021, there was a total of 3,017.4 full-time equivalents included in the budget. By 1st of April this year, the number had risen by 285.5. Of that number, only 160 were new posts supported by business cases and requiring additional funding. The rest were transferred between departments, moved internally, or moved from on a contract basis to internal provision. Mr. Hooper said the reason for the new roles fell into one of three categories. 77.2 are to help invest in safe staffing levels to meet demand or compliance requirements. 68.8 are to create additional services or core functions. And finally, 14 are for investing in support functions. Mr. Hooper said it's important to note that some of these budgeted posts and not all will be filled with substantive staff members at this time. Some are going to be vacant, others may be covered by agency or locum staff. So what about those other full-time equivalent roles that aren't new? Well, Mr. Hooper said 19.7 inter-department transfers relate to the movement of posts and associated budget from other government departments. 32.4 contract for internal provision roles are where previously externally contracted services have been brought in-house, including at Ballasalla GP practice, Hillside Dental practice, and the Med Surface. And the 72.3 full-time equivalent internal movements as a result of internal restructures like grade changes. He said the impact of all the changes will be largely cost neutral. So if you, a couple of people asked me to get to the bottom of that, and that's the story from Laurie Hooper, a written answer from the Health and Social Care Minister, Laurie Hooper. Yes, the answer is more people are employed by Manx Care. David's on with us now. Hi, David.
Hi, Randy. Just wanted to fill in some issue yesterday when somebody came on about the Cushigs at the top of Blackberry Lane. That particular piece of land is not in our lease to Onken AFC, so it's still under the control of the DOI. And I just wanted to put that right. When people going past are saying there's loads of stuff on this particular piece of land opposite the governor's entrance as well. And the one by the governor's entrance there won't be long before it's going to seed, and I'll get you the picture for that. But I also want the lady mentioned to me too, did I realise what was happening at the Tram Horses field, which is opposite us.
Right.
So I went there last night. I did send some pictures. You might have to expand them a little bit. But if you notice the horses in the field, and they were quite placid, I didn't trespass before anybody asks. I took a long-range camera, and round the field there are cushigs grown everywhere, where the horse could just lean over and have a little chew. So I just wondered why nobody from the DOI or DEFRA, and I've asked the question, if the law's the law, Andy, isn't it? If the law's good for you, it's good for me, and it's good for politics.
That's it. Everyone's equal in the eyes of the law.
Right. So I've asked the question, who does the prosecution? So it's the AG's department, right? So I've written an email to the AG's department to ask him to prosecute the DOI and anybody else has got land under government control, because they should be the first people to do it. And the place, I know the Cushig may be a national flower, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a nuisance. It's lying on the hedgerows. You look from Johnny Watson's Lane all the way down to Tremode. It's lying on the pavements and obstructing the pavements. And I just don't know why the DOI can't get out there and do something about it. So the only thing to do is draw it to a head, and I'll try for a private prosecution. Don't know how much it'll cost.
Well, the thing is, if they're not going to do something about it, they should just come out and say we're not doing something about it. But not doing something about it and then not saying is... And it's
the 1957 Act. The 1957 Act still applies, and there's a penalty on it. So, and even when I came up to you and delivered those Jaffa cakes, which were a nice flavour, coming up your road towards Manx Radio on the left-hand side, there's full of the Cushigs all the way up the pavements and the paths up there, and you've still got two at the back of Manx Radio.
Oh no, not today, because we've got the man there with the strimmer. He's strimming everything on the bank there.
I'll need a photograph. I'll check later.
So when you say you're coming up Douglas at Fort Anne Road, on the right-hand side as you're coming up, or the left-hand side?
Oh, the right-hand side coming up. God bless the corporation. They're dealing with all theirs. But the issue I've got is, and this I'll put it to the people out there, is we're cutting our land. We're not our land. We're cutting under our lease. We've got to cut the grass, keep it nice and tidy. We've got to comply with the Weed Act. I've done all that. So I spend hours and hours on the field getting it right for kids to enjoy themselves and play football. We need it leveled, but that's another story. But why should I have seeds germinating from another person's land and covering my field in the future for next season to grow Cushig on? I want grass. I don't want
also, a question in from Ali, who dropped a note in yesterday to say, when was the last time you remember any people doing community service, doing things like weed control or tidying up for community service?
It was about 3 years ago. And it was nice that you've done a little piece on the prison governor. And I could, because I was the political member for the prison. I'm just embarrassed we're not actually challenging people who are in prison, or it may be long-term or short-term there, is to get back on track. And that's the biggest thing you want in the world, isn't it? To give a person the opportunity to get back on the railroad track and do the right thing in the future.
And that's it. I mean, the prison is also, there's supposed to be an element of rehabilitation. It's not punishment, rehabilitation to come back into society.
Well, there's a joiner's workshop there, a full workshop. I remember years ago, and it was about 4 or 5 years ago now, they were criticised because they were making fences for people to sell from the prison, right? And the businesses got excited about it because what they were doing is they were undercutting them by a few quid. Right. Now, I can understand that, but why didn't the prison send the goods that they manufacture out to the agricultural merchants? There's loads of them around the Isle of Man, and say, sell this for us, and we want 10 quid off it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I understand. Okay, all
and
right.
They do the gardens, which is great, and they do the flower shows, which is great as far as I'm concerned, and they grow their own food, which goes into the kitchen too. And I just wonder where things are not connected together, where people in life fall off the rails, we pick them back up and say, look, there's an opportunity. Like I said to you the other day about that guy that learned, it wasn't our tractor, to drive a tractor, fix a tractor, and has a meaningful life and contributes to society.
Okay, all right, appreciate it, David. Thanks for being with us.
Yep.
All right, the foot passenger gangway does board on the bow of Manannan, says Texter 102. Did I hear right? 480 people have moved here since COVID times. I don't recognise 90% of the people when I'm out and about, says Crystal. Well, that's what they say. 480 people have moved here since COVID times. It's a long way from the 15,000 they're trying to get here. But we'll see. I agree with David, says Texter 428. The amount of Cushug plants around the Isle of Man is a disgrace, and by David's account, that's contravening the 1957 Weed Act. Cushugs are only poisonous to horses when they've been cut and dying, so leaving a bit uprooted in the fields or cut with hay could be fatal, says Elle. It affects the liver, doesn't it, of horses, and I think cattle as well. Ramsey Commissioner's properties and roads are full of weeds in Cushug, says P on 080. Thank you for that. 4 years ago, people praised the health service. They stood and clapped on their doorsteps for the Manx NHS. Interesting how people want to raise lots of questions and quibble over their pay. Maybe COVID brought home to MHKs how understaffed the NHS was. Important point, 616. We don't actually know. We never really get ongoing figures of where we are and whether or not the wards that are closed at Nobles are simply because there aren't enough nurses and medical staff or for other reasons. It will be interesting to know, but I mean, Manx Care is understaffed. No ifs. And let's also say hi to good news. DOI have cleared all the way from Peel Coastal Road up to Kirkmichael and beyond, so they're making a start. It's difficult because we've had nesting birds in the hedges, so you can't cut too soon, as first of all it's illegal and will kill the birds. Thank you for that. I lived in the New Forest in 1976. It was tragic to see the dead mares and foals who ate ragwort, says D in Colby. Could the shameful destruction, says 102, of meat products because of a faulty freezer have been prevented by the use of a freezer trailer? That's the story from the meat plant, that they've had to throw a lot of stuff away. Eddie's on now. Hi, Eddie.
Hiya, you all right?
Good, thanks, Eddie. What's on your mind?
I was listening to your radio this morning and heard the comment from yet another. Am I allowed to call them idiots, the MHKs of our island?
Well, that's your opinion.
Exactly. Well, there's an awful lot of people out here are thinking the same. He made a comment about there's been a few delays on ordering the turbines. Prior to anybody with any sense, prior to ordering anything, they would make sure they got permission to put them up. In order to put these things up on the land, in the way I look at it, they're going to have to change at least half a dozen laws. Now, am I right in saying that you have to do that in the government through Parliament, yeah?
When you say change the laws, which laws in particular?
Well, you can't kill birds. The hen harriers is a protected bird. Bats are protected, so you'll have to change the law for that. The risk of floods, that is in law now. If there's any risk to flood, you've seen that in Ramsey. So planning refused because of the risk of flood. There's also more laws than you can mention with health and safety. I mean, all these laws are going to have to be just scrapped if they even think of going ahead. And the other thing that it's still rife, the rumours about, if you don't listen to the people will rebel. And they're going to have 24-hour security on this 7 days a week, if they even think of it. You know, it's just lunacy. And I believe Mr. Wannenberg's South African. He's not Manx, so, you know, can we have somebody making decisions about the Isle of Man from the Isle of Man? He doesn't give a ha'porth. Once he's got his pennies, he'll be off. Well,
and again, that's your opinion. For the record, I think Mr. Wannenberg was born in Grimsby. He was actually born in Lincolnshire, but that's another matter. And the fact is, he's a publicly elected official. You know, he's got a public mandate. The people of North Douglas elected Mr. Wannenberg, and he's been given a job, and he's dealing with that job as he sees fit.
Yeah, but all of these people got in with an agenda of green, right? Including Mr. Wannenberg, right? Not one of them are giving us what we asked for. They have told us a pack of lies. So come the next general election, I wonder how many of those will be still in their seats. I doubt if 10% of them are.
Well, I have to say, that will be fascinating, because it's a little... I mean, in 2 years' time, they'll all be popping up to say whether they're standing, so it'll be interesting to see how many people do that. And, of course, whether or not Erie Stane will actually be any closer to happening, if it happens at all, because, as you say, there's got to be planning, there may be an inquiry, who knows? And then, of course, we haven't ordered the stuff yet.
Well, you've also got the other thing, Andy, that the people of Erie Stane and the surrounding area have promised to take them to court over all the reasons that we've been discussing over the last 2.5 years. And when that is going through court, they cannot do anything while it's going through court. Also, you don't know this, but I am actually going to get in touch with the European Court of Human Rights to see whether the Isle of Man is still involved in this. Or can they be involved in this? I pointed out to you that in Toulouse, because they won the court battle, they've had to take them down. Now, the taxpayers of the Isle of Man should be aware that if this idiot government that I keep calling them, because that's the only impression I ever get of them, if they go ahead with any of this, there's every chance that it might be just a total flop, just like all the other flops that we've had in the last 3 or 4 years. It's madness, absolute madness, and the people will rebel. I have no doubt whatsoever about it. The rumours down south here are rife, and I don't condone anything that's wrong, violent or anything like that. We are going to take them to court. So just that alone should be a deterrent to stop the stupidity.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't want to... all I'll say is a word of caution. People have taken the Manx government to court before, and it costs a lot of money, Eddie.
Well, we're going to do it. We've got quite a few bob up here. I've saved a couple of bob. The people of France, in just an area near Toulouse, actually got it paid for, their protest, and we will be applying for the same here. But it won't matter. We've got quite a few people with money up here, and we will do it. We won't hesitate in doing it, because it's madness, absolute and utter madness. Okay. Listen to the people.
Okay, I have to say this because I've done. You do live close to where this is going to be, don't you?
Yeah, but people down in Port Erin, Port St Mary, Castletown, Santon, everywhere, they don't want it.
Right.
The south of the island does not want it. And now you've actually seen this on your programme. Because they're putting wind farms up on the East Coast, you're going to have rebellion from all the way down the East Coast. And then the truth will come out eventually that Mike Profit and so forth, all these companies, they're going to put these things all over the island. So it will concern everybody, not just me. And it won't be in my backyard, it'll be in everybody's backyard.
Okay. All right, Eddie, we appreciate that.
Yes, Andy.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. I also should say, I sound like I'm Mr. Wannenberg's agent, but I remember going round the whole of the Isle of Man doing programmes for Man in Line in the evening with all constituents, and I seem to recall Mr. Wannenberg was one of those who didn't put green issues at the top of his manifesto. So there he is. He's not South African, although he does have a South African accent, and he wasn't at the top of the pile with green issues. But anyway, the Isle of Man Meats, as I say, has revealed it's had to dispose of some of its freezer stock. None was salvageable. Amy's been looking at it.
Over the weekend of the 22nd of July, an older piece of equipment failed. Frozen offal and held stock from the freezer of Isle of Man Meats were affected. By law, stock must be held at minus 12 degrees or below, but the temperature rose to minus 5 degrees. Therefore, all of the stock had to be disposed of. Similar laws exist for pet food, so it couldn't be used for that instead either. The stock value was around £40,000 of potential sales. It's not the first time this year meat stocks have had to be disposed of. Back in April, almost 2 tonnes had to be binned when errors with stock management saw some produce going past its shelf life. Meanwhile, in January, beef products had to be recalled after a packaging machine broke down. In a statement, Isle of Man Meat says it focuses on selling out fresh stock and uses the freezer as necessary to prevent wastage from unsold stock that is close to end of shelf life, as well as to build up stocks of red offal to sell to the pet food industries. It says while waste occurs at each point in the chain across the food industry, it is something that we strive to prevent. However, legislation is in place to protect human health and must take priority.
That's what's been happening at the meat plant. Hi to Lisa, who just sent me a copy of an advert. I think presumably this is a Manx advert, and she said this is the reason people aren't given a chance when they come out of prison. I work for a company who have employed many ex-prisoners. Some have been amazing, some not. So, but that applies to non-ex-prisoners too. It's quite disturbing to see that employers in the Isle of Man think like this, and this was an advertisement for a role that said at the end, if you have a criminal record, do not apply. Those words were removed from the advert first thing Monday morning. It's not a vulnerable person's job, and it upsets me to see comments like this, says Lisa. The job of our prison is to rehabilitate. The loss of liberty is the punishment, and the job of the prison is to make sure that people who may have strayed off the straight and narrow for one reason or another, and of course there are very many different shades of criminality, but a lot of people get there because of bad decisions, bad circumstances, bad luck sometimes. So is that what our prison's for? And this comes back to just giving people work so that there's some community service possibly that the prisoners could do. It will be nice to know where the Home Affairs... Actually, Jane Paul Wilson and Dan Davis will be on before the end of August, so maybe that's something we'll bring up with them. And we've got, let me see, Donald with us now. Hi, Donald.
Hello there. I live in Port St Mary, so I'm not very far from these turbines on the hill. I have certainly got no objections to them, and I haven't heard of anybody in Port St Mary or Port Erin who does object to them. Now, over the years, I'm talking about now the last 25 years, when I've been in the mainland, this is South, Midlands and up in Scotland, I've taken the opportunity to stop and listen to them. Now, after the propeller comes down, there is a whoosh, but that's all you hear. Nothing else. I've never heard any grounds vibrating, anything like that. And I've been within 50 yards of them, sometimes 200-300 yards. But as I say, you can hear the whoosh, and that's all you do hear.
So as far as you're concerned,
if the Isle of Man government is telling us we've got to go green in the next 10 or 15 years, all the objectors won't achieve anything. Now, will they? If we've got to go green, we've got to go green.
Yeah.
And we can't have half a dozen objectors, no matter how much money they've got. They've got to go green. Okay?
Okay, we appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank
good to hear from you. Thanks, Donald. Regarding, here we are. Thanks to WhatsApper 700, I'll try and get to the link that you've sent me fairly shortly. More messages coming in, including complaints have been made to DEFRA about injuries that weeds such as kush are causing, but nothing was done as the land is now for environmental management. I understand they've been left to seed for the benefit of the insects. Thanks for that. And also new residents, 400 odd that have been registered for tax and national insurance. How many people are being paid cash? What happens? Says Texter 382. Well, there's always been people who come here and work illegally. That's happened for years and years and years. There have always been people who've worked in the black economy on the Isle of Man while ever there's been work going on. But they don't last very long normally. Somebody gets found out, the employer will get found out, and they'll get found out, and the full force of the law then moves against them. So if you know anything about that, then by all means do get in touch. They don't mind the wind turbines killing birds, says Desmond. You don't mind the windmills killing birds? I agree with David. Blackberry Lane's a disgrace. You have to duck under trees that are completely overgrown. Same for Governor's Path all the way to Hilbury, Cronknamona. The pavements are disgraceful. Weeds overgrown, says Pam. The access path, which we'll be using next week to get to Governor's Hill when the Grand Prix is on, is completely overgrown. Interestingly, though, on my walk this morning, there were men cutting the grass on all sides of the walkways, i.e. the Governor's house, says Pam. Well, he has more pull than most of us, doesn't he? Oh, good news regarding Manx Grand Prix. The merchandise is going to be produced this year by an Isle of Man-based company. Our sports editor, Rob Pritchard.
Happy Dog Image Solutions, based in Derby, has announced it's partnered with the TT Motorsport team and Manx Motorcycle Club to provide MGP goods for the 2024 event. The range is being produced in-house on the island and will include custom-printed giftware such as T-shirts, hoodies, jackets, hats, stickers and fridge magnets. The organisation had been involved in providing merchandise in 2023, but via a third party. In a statement, the company is thanking government departments for the opportunity to show what it can do as a business, as well as its retail partners which are supporting its efforts. It adds they hope locals and visitors who support the Manx Grand Prix are as excited as they are over the range, and that people can support the retailers who will be stocking the latest items. The new products are being stocked at Island stores in Douglas, Ramsey, Peel and Derby, as well as on board the Manxman and Manannan steam packet vessels and at the Victory Cafe at the Bungalow on the Mountain Road. You can see a full list of the island outlets providing the new MGP merchandise at manxradio.com.
Who's this with a Manx Radio microphone in his hand?
Hi, I'm John McGuinness, just wishing Manx Radio a happy 60th birthday.
Find a hidden gem in the Isle of Man, the Abbey Restaurant Ballasalla. This old country house offers a relaxed and sophisticated atmosphere where you can wind down with unique and interesting fresh food and drinks, from dinner with fine wines to tea and exquisite cakes. Enjoy our fantastic lunch menu with fresh specials or join us for afternoon tea and dinner. To book, click theabbey.im, find the Abbey on Facebook or call 822 393.
If you'd like to support your community, meet new people, enhance your CV and be part of a life-saving team, then volunteer for St John Ambulance. As a proud Manx charity, St John Ambulance help the people of the island when they need us most. We're a trusted presence at many of the island's premier events, including the Southern 100, Manx Grand Prix and, of course, the TT. So take advantage of our in-depth, life-saving training and be part of a great team. Call 674 387 or see online at sja.org.im.
We're cooking with sunshine, cholera. We're washing with sunshine, cholera. We're heating with sunshine, cholera. The future looks good. Call 676 545 676 544. It looks good. 676 544.
Tonight at 5:30 here on Manx Radio, join Kiri Kermode and myself, Simon Clark, for Countryside.
We'll be catching up with some of the organisers over at Patrick at the Royal Manx Agricultural Showfield.
And I talked to 90-year-old Raymond Tier from Braddon about his time and one of the first people delivering milk to the Isle of Man creameries, who celebrate 90 years this year. And also I speak to the current chairman of the creameries, Dougie Cool.
That's all in Countryside tonight here on Manx Radio at 5:30. And don't forget, you can download and subscribe to the podcast for free at manxradio.com.
The Man in Line with Andy Wint.
23 minutes before 1. Juan's with us now. Hi, Juan.
Hey, Andy. Listen, my tea towel is absolutely threadbare. When you come to the Royal Show on Friday, can you bring one of them Man in Line tea towels you've been promising me for 3 years?
I'll find a Man in Line tea towel for you, don't worry.
I heard Mrs. Winter's got loads of them in her drawer at home.
Well, there we are. I can't argue with that.
I keep asking Tony Palmer, but he's tighter than the rabbi, and I'm not getting nothing from him. Now, I was just listening there to Donald. Donald, this is the mainland. This is the mainland. Did Donald actually say that he lived near these? He went and listened to them for 15 or 20 minutes or half an hour, but did he actually live 365 days a year with the turbines and the wind flicker? Just a question there. And I don't quite agree with Eddie at the moment on John Wannenberg. I think anyone who can do the job properly, doesn't matter where they come from, if they can do the job properly, then they should be in there at the moment. There's no one any better, I don't think.
And that's the point. I mean, that's the point. The fact is, when people talk about, anybody other than pure Manx, and let's face it, there are very few pure Manx on the Isle of Man. It's in the minority. If you can go back, all 4 grandparents that are pure Manx. The fact is, Manx people have gone all over the world and have done for hundreds of years. So, and non-Manx people have come to the Isle of Man for many, many years. So, where you're from, really, I don't know. Does that enter into it?
There's good people over here that embrace the island and its culture, that have come from different places. And again, jumping back onto what I said yesterday, it's about embracing the culture of the place that you want to settle in, and being part of that, and not carrying your own culture with you and pushing it onto other people. And I think that's the important thing. What I will say on John Wannenberg's part is that his base is from South Africa originally. If there's anyone that knows about electricity problems and load shedding, then John Wannenberg and Walter would know the problems if we haven't got continuity in electricity. And if anyone knows anything about it, people who from South Africa will tell you that you're sitting there and the lights go out for 2 hours and that's it. That's it. You're sat there, everything goes off unless you've got backup. That's it. So, that's the important thing, unless you've been through that. And as we've said here before, the island's been spoilt with good constant electricity supply for years. We've done very well.
Yeah, but remember, when there was that old diesel chugger at Pulrose, everybody remembers the Sunday afternoon power cuts when you had to wait to do a roast.
Yeah, and I say we've been lucky to have continuity now. To go back to where we were before, it's there's a whole generation of people now who wouldn't be able to cope with that. Now, I just wanted to jump on the someone mentioned before about the 400 people that they said have come into the island.
Well, not 400; it's 400 net.
400 net, yes, and that's the thing, is the way that this has been delivered, a nice bit of clever accounting, because I think the actual figure was around about 3,000.
3,705 migrated to the Isle of Man, outward migration 2,709, so net increase of 461.
Yes, and that's taken in lower birth rates and deaths as well, I believe. So we've got a higher population of 400. I think it was just the way that it was delivered, and that person had picked up on it.
The Isle of Man's natural population is actually negative because deaths are outweighing births at the moment.
Absolutely, and this is the problem worldwide at the moment. The birth rates are way, way, way down in many places at the moment. In fact, quite worrying in some statistics of the way birth rates are going. So, Mr. Gates might have his eugenics already done for him. Just on a last note, Jane Poole-Wilson, you said, is coming on in August. Look forward to that. I've got some really good questions for Jane and stuff that's going put forward at the moment. But just a reminder to people, if they are concerned in any way at all about the wind vanning project going up on the coastline, that the Orsted thing is on this week, and it's on this afternoon at the Santander Cafe. So just a reminder to people, please go down and put the Oculus on, ask the questions, but look and ask them for the morning view, ask them for the evening view, and ask them for the night view. Take out all the pleasant sounds of the birds flying around and just look at the aesthetics. But I just say to people, go down and make your presence known at these places, because if you don't, then this will happen. It's no good talking about it when it's done, but it's on this afternoon and it's on tomorrow. I'm sure you've got the list there, Andy. So people go down and make sure that you make use of that Oculus and make your views known.
Okay, all right, thanks, Stuart.
Take care, Andy.
Appreciate it. Yes, that's right. Today, the Santander Work Cafe at the Old Market Hall, North Quay in Douglas. Orsted will be there from midday till 6. Tomorrow, Wednesday, at the Corran Hall in Peel from 2 till 7, and Thursday at the Bradaglen Cafe in Port Erin from 2 till 7. So pop along and see them, have a chat with them. And by the way, I just want to mention something yesterday. Do you remember when Wilf came on and said he got a phone call from Orsted? At the end, he kind of said, well, he'd given them his number. So just to reiterate, Orsted they're not cold calling people, just to make that absolutely clear. When Wilf actually filled out a form, I think, or gave them his number and asked them some questions, and I think he may be chatting with them again. So that's so Orsted aren't cold calling people. Wilf gave them his number. I mentioned that Jane Poole-Wilson's on towards the end of the month. Before then, tomorrow, John Curtis will be here, and we've also got the Isle of Man Green Party with us tomorrow. So do you remember John Curtis? He used to be Net Zero Matrix and also Curtis Associates. He's a man who's in business. He's involved in the sustainable energy, used to be in petrochemicals, but is now involved in the business. So it's interesting to see and to get the views of somebody who is in the middle of this, in the middle of the political trend towards sustainability, and also you and I. So he's in business with this, and the Green Party from the Isle of Man will be on tomorrow. Friday, we're going to be live at Knockalo with the Royal Manx Agricultural Show with a panel of contributors. The boss of the creamery is going to be there. Finlay McLeod will be there. Bill Dale from Beach Buddies will be on the panel. Scott Gallagher, the chief officer from DEFA, will be there, and more. So if you're at the Royal, come along and say hello on Friday. And yes, towards the end of the month, day after Bank Holiday Monday, Jane Poole-Wilson, Middle MHK, and also Minister at the Home Affairs Department, and Dan Davis, her chief exec, will be on. Some of the stuff coming up on Man in Line.
Right. I say, when you're looking for the perfect bathroom, get your silly walk over to Pacesetter, where you'll get friendly help and advice on bathrooms that will work for you. From practical, accessible bathrooms for aging users to the ultimate in luxury designs with walk-in showers and wet rooms, with no inquisitions, dead birds or hard sell. You'll always be on the bright side of life when you see the stunning range on display at Pacesetter Tile and Bathroom Studio, Harris Terrace, Douglas, or search online for Pacesetter Douglas.
Waltons have hundreds of TVs in stock ready to go, from Samsung to LG, here on the island. Plus, a large range of main appliances in stock, including fridge freezers, washing machines, and everything your home will need from all the top brands like Smeg, Samsung, and Hotpoint. With special offers throughout the store and delivery and installation available, check out Waltons on Facebook or waltons.im. Or, even better, visit Waltons in Isle of Man Business Park, opposite Robinson's, for great prices and great service.
We make oil heating easy with our range of services. Whether it's our free smart tank monitoring systems or just our efficient all-island deliveries, Ellen Van in Fuels has it covered. Call us on 844 000 to find out more.
The extended Ramsey Garden Centre is deceptively large. You'll find a warm welcome and everything from bedding and perennials, fruit and vegetables to lighting, garden ornaments, bird baths, bird tables and indoor and outdoor pots. Come and browse at Ramsey Garden Centre.
Join us this weekend on board our historic radio ship Ross Revenge for an extended Caroline North broadcast as our annual fundraiser gets underway. Join our support group or pledge £30 to get one of 2 new exclusive t-shirts and help us raise money to keep Radio Caroline on the air and get the Ross Revenge into dry dock. We're on the air this Friday from 10 a.m. after Andy Wint on Manx Radio Gold, 1368 AM, online and DAB.
The Man in Line with Andy Wint.
Also, hi to Marilyn, who just said she enjoyed the Radio Caroline weekend in Ramsey. Thanks for that. I've just been away, says Baz, for 2 weeks to Spain and Portugal. You were talking about whether or not a GBM sticker works anymore. Now Britain or the UK is not in the EU. I had no problem on the bike for 2 weeks in Spain and Portugal. GBM on my registration. And Juan said we're not part of the UK or indeed the GB, so we should have an IOM sticker for vehicles. Well, it's been GBM for years, hasn't it? As GBJ for Jersey and GBG for Guernsey. So, but there was a rumour, and it was just skeet really, that people were getting hassle in Europe for having GBM. Anyway, Julian's with us now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. A beautiful day.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Yeah, nice temperature. Just everything's good. Just before I talk about the meat plant, in relation to what Donald just said, a couple of points there. He obviously has no concept of the resonant infrasound frequencies that have driven so many people out of their homes. It has to be a certain types of weather, of course, but there are people that were even sleeping in the cellar with the dog because they couldn't stand to be in the house. So I think he needs to do his research on that. And
well, it's his opinion, Julian.
Yeah, and also something that's not really opinion, I don't know, is it opinion when you've got 5 Blackpool Tower or higher towers in such a small area for scale?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine, the scaling of this thing is going to be ridiculous.
Well, do you remember what Michelle Haywood said, one of the Russian MHK? Michelle Haywood said she has no problem with them because seeing wind turbines would, I think her words were, forgive me if I'm wrong, but she said something like, it's indicative of a community that's embracing the future.
Okay, well, let's have a think about that future. I spoke with Lizzie Riley not too long ago on the Man in Line, and she was saying that these 3 times anywhere else in the UK's power yields, which of course is a huge point in terms of the business case for doing this in the first place. She said to me that they were taking wind measurements, albeit over the winter time at the time, and multiplying it by a wind turbine manufacturer's software predictive system. And now they're announcing that they haven't even chosen one yet. So how can they know those figures if they haven't even chosen a vendor for the turbine?
Interesting point.
Yeah. Yeah. So, meat plant. BBC reported immediate action plan to support failing Isle of Man meat plant. That report said that Claire Barber announced a comprehensive turnaround plan should be completed by the end of the month, and immediate remedial actions were discussed with managers and directors. That report was 15th of November 2022. That's 90 weeks ago. You've also got the managing director of the meat plant, Rebecca Meir, who was hired 14 months ago. So we're not hearing from Rebecca Meir on this one, and I'm not hearing from Claire Barber. And I'm not. Am I to understand she's on holiday and won't be attending the agricultural show on Friday?
That's right. Claire won't be there, but the chief officer will be. Scott Gallagher will be there.
Right. So let me just repeat that. What she said: a comprehensive turnaround plan should be completed by the end of the month with immediate remedial action. So we've got fridges that are not working, and I seem to remember it was a labelling machine that was not working in April that lost 2 tons of meat. Apart from cutting the meat up and a few people, what else can you do in a meat plant to do, what was it, remedial action?
I wonder.
Yeah. Just one other little thing. There is an online consultation called Isle of Man Transport Strategy, Key Principles. If you remember, a couple of years ago, I mentioned to you about the Arab C40 City report called The Future of Urban Consumption. And we were talking about them, seriously talking about zero private car ownership in the UK and around the world. I noticed on this Isle of Man transport strategy, they are talking about personal car use on the island is high. We want to see a transition away from use of personal cars.
Yeah.
They also say we will also consider form as well as function in the design of our streetscapes. This includes the decommissioning of transport assets, in particular electric vehicles and their batteries. So are they talking about 2050, nobody will have any vehicles? And it also says, I think it's Principle 6, says, our transport and planning systems must align to reduce the need to travel. Development should be focused on locations which are sustainable, thereby limiting the need to travel. That sounds awfully like behavioural modification to me.
My word, I wonder. All right, thanks, Julian. Good to hear from you.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
All right, Tony's with us now. And hi, Tony.
Following off on what Julian just said, that sounds more like a Russian automatic state for me. So they're going to stop us driving because why?
Well, at least they all got a larder reach in Russia, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, the issue is where do we get these ideas from that we've all got to stop driving cars? What other means of transport have you got? Oh, you're supposed to stay at home and stay warm because there's going to be electric cuts every 5 minutes because the wind's not blowing.
Anyway, that wasn't why you called.
No, that wasn't what I called. It's just one of the myriad of things that don't seem to work. I have been waiting now for a shingles injection for quite some time, despite getting hold of our minister in charge of health, who assured me that it was going through the system, which is the usual stock standard phrase. That's not right. Oh, it's going through the system. They announced the other day that the system, they're going to go ahead and get the vaccines back in, and we're going to give people who are 65 and younger, who are medically in need of it, which is the same as the UK, JVIC, whatever it's called, we're going to give them a shingles vaccine. Now, I don't know if that's already been put in place, but the law today says you should be giving over 70s that vaccine. Full stop. That's the law. So once again, the Isle of Man doesn't follow its own laws because somebody has decided, we need to modify that. So what we'll do is not do what we're supposed to do today, but we'll wait until we're ready to do it tomorrow or the day after or 6 months' time. Oh, maybe 9 months, maybe a year. The Isle of Man is falling apart. Its departments don't work. We haven't got enough nurses. We have an over-bureaucratic system in the health service that is causing a lot of these problems. Instead of just doing what we're supposed to do, we have to basically take a giant sledgehammer and keep smashing away at a nut, even though the nut's not there.
And there's quite a bit of shingles around. I know a couple of people who've had shingles recently.
Right, so my question is, what are they doing about it? And the answer is, well, we're working on it. They've been working on it for months. And all this is because a new shingles vaccine has come out, which costs more money. And there's a drive from, obviously, the people who sell it want to sell it, so they're advertising it all over the place.
Oh, so that's the reason.
That's the reason. But it costs, as you've got to get 2 injections now. You used to get 1. But instead, and you can't get the old vaccine anymore because it's only off for the new one. And they're advertising it, which is great. I understand all that. That's commercial pharmacology, that is. But that's no reason why the Manx government have to suddenly decide, OK, well, we're going to stop everything while we think about what day of the week it is and what we can do about this. Because at the end of the day, they will not have the funds. They didn't have the funds to start with, so it's easier just to stop the whole thing and not do anything. And just delay everything and tell we're working on it. And I'm getting really quite annoyed at the fact that when they come out and say, oh yeah, we're going to do this, there's no plan. And it's not just this, it's everything else.
Okay. All right.
Anything that they say they're going to do, they never tell you what the plan is. They never tell you when or what the plan is.
All right. Got to go, Tony. Thanks for calling today.
You take care, Andy, and I hope you don't get shingles. Have you had the vaccine? Have you had the vaccine?
No, I haven't, no.
Well, there's your opportunity to get it if they ever come up with it.
All right.
Tell them you need it. See what happens.
All right,
Maybe
thanks for
they'll
calling.
Listen to you.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. I don't know whether you know, but there seems to be a lot of first of all, chicken pox, adult chicken pox, and shingles knocking around the Isle of Man. So we'll see. We'll see where exactly we go with that. But if you've been waiting for the shingles vaccine for a long time, then do let me know. Email andywint@manxradio.com. So I mentioned tomorrow we're talking about net zero and how we get to net zero on the Isle of Man. John Curtis from Curtis and Associates, Net Zero Matrix, and the Isle of Man Green Party will be on tomorrow to talk about, well, their views as to how we get there. How much it's going to cost, what the benefit will be. It'll be a cost-benefit analysis tomorrow. So if you've got any thoughts, by all means, you can call the answer phone on 682-631 and you can call tomorrow. Take your chance calling live or leave a message on the answer phone 682-631 or email maninline@manxradio.com. So whatever you're doing today, it's a gorgeous day. Maybe time for a picnic today. Your favourite picnic spot? How do you get to your favourite picnic spot? Is the path clear? No ragwort on it, is there? And maybe we'll see you live at Nokelo on Friday at the Royal Manx Agricultural Show. In the meantime, thanks to Chris Quirk on the phones today, and thank you for your correspondence, emails, WhatsApps and calls. Remember, all messages are read. Most of them aren't read on air, though.